Well, welcome to the Oasis Podcast. I'm John Mark Yoder. This is Wayne Weaver. And we get together every week or several times a month, I guess I should say, and we talk about things. Mm-hmm. We discuss things that pertain to life and our faith walk with God, the Holy Spirit, His work within us. Today we want to talk about a really practical issue, but it's also one that is it can be controversial. If you ever sit or if you ever hear conversations that come from a nursery in a church, and you hear about different ideas, raising and training children can be a controversial subject. Most often because of the emotions that are involved. You know, our children are kind of an extension of ourselves, but we want to talk today about raising your children to be winsome and respectful. Talk about helping your children to gain and exhibit good values and character. How do you do that? Wayne, I find it's interesting within the church, watching families and children. And back in the day, I was always scared to do things at other people's places. And, you know, we were always taught, you don't touch that, you don't go here, you don't go, you know, and many times we almost didn't like going places because we weren't quite sure, you know, we wanted to make sure we didn't disrespect the place. And we knew that if we did, there was some penalties coming. Today, it doesn't seem it's quite that way, and it can often be interesting to see who gets invited to places and who doesn't, and sometimes it has to do with children.
It sure does, yeah.
So we want to talk about that today. Proverbs 22:6 says, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." And then also Ephesians 6:4, "And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord." Wayne, how do we raise children today, teaching them the way they should go, but also not provoking them to wrath, but bringing them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord? We've got a few minutes. How do we do that?
You know, I don't know. I've said this before down through life. God gives us children. First child comes into a family, and there's never a book or instruction book along. And so it happens to a young family, husband and wife, and now what? And we're never told how. There's books written on it, but God doesn't give us a book with it. But there is something that He gives us that I think is still a bottom line basis of how to train children, and that is love. Love. Acceptance. And I think that's a very basic understanding of how we can successfully raise our children. But there is a lot of different dynamics in this picture. Some children are easy to love, others are hard to love. And I wish I'd have better insights in this picture. But I'll say this, that I've seen this down through life and encountered it over and over in many families' lives, that they tell me, and this is what I observe, there is at least one or so child that is kind of the one that always feels everyone's against him. Nobody likes me. Nobody loves me. I'm always the one that I'm picked on. And in school, I'm picked on. A teacher picks on me harder. And it's like a magnet to attract all kinds of mischief. But then also as a result of that, there's just a lot of rejection that gets fabricated into someone's character. And later on in life, this will come up to the surface. And it almost seems that it continues through life. And these are people that often have a very difficult life and lifestyle. Their gleaning and understanding of things is difficult. It's different. And how to overcome that, how to take a child and develop something in that child where they don't turn out that way. I'd like to hear personally a better job of how to do that. But I did hear this already from different people that, in fact, as I'm saying this, you can pretty much know people that are listening are saying, oh, yeah, that's my so-and-so. They immediately know who I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I was one of those at our home. And I always felt the teacher picked on me more than it did on any of my brothers. But I also felt that my mom and my dad appreciated one of the other brothers of mine much more than me. And I was kind of like, and I would call myself like the runt of the family. That's the way I felt. Mm-hmm. Now, was it an actual truth that that's the way it was? Well, I don't know that I would in my adulthood now say that, yes, that's a true perception that I had. But I did know that I was very hard of learning, and my dad was just opposite. He was a teacher, and I'm sure I embarrassed him many times. And so nothing was easy for me except mischief. Mm-hmm. That was easy for me. And so I wouldn't say that my mom and dad did something wrong to make me this way. However, I will say this. There are some things that I remember that certainly didn't help. I know one time, because of my behavior, which was being kind of a mischievous young boy, one day I came home from school and my entire family went to the zoo. And there was a note there that I was not allowed to go alone because of the way I've been mischievous. That was huge. And I remember how I cried beyond almost recognition, the deep sobbing cry that I just could not stop, because I probably had more interest in a zoo than any of the others did, because I was more that type. Did that ruin me for life? No, it didn't. But I remember the pain of crying almost beyond what you can contain. That really hurt. Did it make me rebellious at home? No, it didn't. There were other things then that I gravitated toward. And I think that's one of the things that is so missing in many homes, is the father and the mother. But in the father, there is no gravity. The children don't draw to the father. They should. We should be filled with gravity, of something that the children want to be with dad.
And when you're talking about gravity, you're talking about a drawing force, just like there's gravity that holds us to the earth. There's something that should draw us. Yeah,
it's one of the qualifications of being a preacher, that we have to have gravity. Our children will gravitate towards us because they like to be around us. And I will say this, that in my life, God had given me that there was much gravity at home, still is to this day, that my children, finally when it came to youth, they just wanted to stay home. There was so much, one of them once said, there's so much fun at home, we don't want to go to be with the youth. And I'd have to finally kind of put my foot down and say, hey, listen, you have to go and mingle with the youth. But that gravity is just something they like to be around you. I was very creative. They're always around mom. Mom is there at home all the time. But for dad to come home, sometimes he comes home and he's got an angry voice, or he's got upset because of a bad day he had and all that. That will bring complication in children's lives. And if you are that type of a person, then you try to correct the child or to help a child, they're not going to gravitate toward it, because all they know is, well, dad's a grouch, dad had a bad day, dad is yada, yada, yada. I was never perfect in that, but I do say this, that my children gravitated very much to me.
Well, it's interesting that you say that about the gravitation, because the two verses that we read talk about instruction. And I think one of the things that I've noticed over the years is that many parents don't realize that children need to learn or be instructed.
Yeah.
Many times we're taught almost the opposite of, your child knows what they need, listen to them. Mm-hmm. And so we have parents that are not doing as much training as they are trying to converse and find out.
Yeah.
And I think that can be a challenge. Mm-hmm. But the other thing is we often miss their emotions and that development because we are trying to sort of preserve something else.
Yeah.
How do we balance that with the training and still not missing the heart? Now, like you came home and you found that note and everybody's gone to the zoo,
Yeah.
but not you. That impacted you, but it felt like it missed your heart. How can we avoid missing the heart of our children while still teaching them the principles?
Oh, we have to have interest in them.
That actually is profound, but it sounds so simple. But you have to have interest in them.
In them and their development.
Mm-hmm.
I would do this, and my children might not have even known at the time that I was doing this, but I would listen to them. Well, what do you like? And you'll still find that if I'm around little children and after a meal or something, certain children, I will ask them, so what did you like best? I want to know. Okay, I liked this. Then I ask, why did you like it? Because I take interest. I want to hear what their thinking is. That to me that's important to me because it's part of their development patterns and skills that are developing in them. And I'm curious enough, I want to know why. Yesterday, I'm working at my son-in-law's place, Dustin and Monica, and I'm working there simply hauling in a lot of dirt they're filling in the back. And so, of course, Gabrielle, she just likes to be with Grandpa. And so she goes on the truck, and so we talk a lot. And I ask her questions. And I ask her some questions. So what is your number one favorite food? It was not just to talk. I was interested. So, and then she said, carrots. She likes carrots. And so I just very unusual.
Yeah,
carrots,
not Twinkies, not candy bars. Carrots,
carrots. And so now I don't know, is that she's real young yet, but so I asked her why, and she has this crazy little thing that she's taught me that is on VeggieTales, I guess. And anytime that somebody asks why, and then she says, because it's Christmas. And she do that all the time. So anyways, finally, why do you like them? Well, do you like them hot or cold? She likes them both ways. So I thought that's interesting. She had one other thing. But it was interesting for me to hear how character is being building in her, and that it didn't take me very long to notice that she's not big into any food. Food is not that big a deal. Well, she's just skinny mini. So that's why. But it's just those interests. I like to hear, well, why? Well, how? Well, why? Because I take interest in that. But you do that as a child and do it in a child. You're taking from their attention and they're speaking to you rather than you speaking all to them. Here is one problem that I see in training that I see a lot in people that are brought up ultra-conservative. All right? And here's a problem that just simply they come to our church and there's no conviction in them. That's just often missing. Where you think there would be a tremendous amount of conviction because of being under stiff rules and regulations, the way they come from and where they come from, you think that would be very strong. I've had people say things to my face of lack of conviction that I just about couldn't believe because they're brought up under law.
Well, I'm wondering because, so Ephesians 6 says, don't provoke your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. It seems like if we're bringing them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord, there would be some conviction. How do we actually do that?
We teach them principles. And I was always careful to try to do that. And I didn't tell my children, no, don't do this. Just stop it. Don't do it. I would tell them why. I want principle to be built in them. This is why we don't do this. Because if you do this, this is what will happen. Now it's your decision. Do you want to do that or not? I would often leave that up to them. And that's part of training. But we train in principles. And I notice these, and in these ultra-conservative churches, they don't really teach principles. It's just law. You don't have this with this. You can't. It's not why. Well, some of the reasons because there's no explanation why. Because there's nothing out of the Bible that will teach you why. But this is what I find is so missing in a lot of homes. Parents don't teach principle. This is why we have a time of quietness. Because we want you to learn there's a time to speak, there's a time not to speak. There's a time to cry, there's a time to laugh. And this is a principle. It's part of developing in you that you can have both furnished or all of these characteristics in you as we grow up. It's not all screaming, all just, no, stop it. Now stop it, sit down, stop it. And those are the people that do that, just let them go. I find that a lot. They'll be quick to say, hey, stop that. Then next, I told you to stop that. And they just keep right on.
So there's no follow through. There's no consistency.
No principle taught.
No principle taught.
Why do I want you to stop that? You know, I've noticed, and you made a statement right to begin with. There's people that are never invited to your home. Why? Because you've observed how the children were, and we've seen that. And finally, we have this. It was a piece of furniture that was expensive, and it wouldn't sell. It's just too expensive. So they said, well, take it home. So we took it home. Well, early on, we had some families there, and their children that's the first place they go, and sit on top of that thing or stand on it. And we have taught our children feet are dirty, and they need to stay on the floor. You don't stand on furniture because feet are dirty. Now you sit on where your feet were, now you're dirty. So you teach them why. Just don't say, stop it, don't do it. You teach them why. They understand that principle. And it is interesting to me, I hear my children say this now. Now they're doing it to their children as well. Hey, don't stand on there, you sit down. No running in the house. That's something that I've always said, no running in the house. We're not a racetrack. You can walk, there's no hurry, no running in the house. That's just the way it is. And so I have those expectations from my grandchildren when they come home, and they know it. They know it. Now, if you want to run, go to the basement. You can run everything you want to down there, but not in the house. This is a house. The other thing is, a house is not a house. This is a home.
Right.
And that's a whole other story that I think would be good maybe at another time to bring out.
We'll have to take up that, and how do we maintain order in the home? And
the father's place, even where he sits. Mother's place, even where she sits. And things like that. I like to cover that, what I've been teaching our people. But I remember we had a family that we thought highly of, and this was years ago, invited them to our home. And I mean, the door opened, and they came in, and the children were everywhere, in drawers. I heard them upstairs in bedrooms, and they were opening drawers and looking through drawers. And it's like, were they never taught?
Yeah, well, it feels like you're invaded when that happens. That's like
you are
disrespectful.
You are invaded, but why are children not taught respect? And you come into someone's home, that's not your home. And I'm a principled person. I knock on every door. Unless I'm invited in, I'm not welcome.
Well, you know what we're going to do? Yeah. We're going to pick this up in another episode, and we'll leave this as a cliffhanger. Okay. If you want to hear the end of this, you'll need to come back for the next episode. But thank you for joining us today. We're going to bring this to an abrupt halt, but this is good. We'll keep a cliffhanger here for the next one, and we'll start up when we come back. So God bless you. Have a wonderful day. We appreciate you being here.